Hi, it's me, Dick Jr. I'm coming to you today to read 2 Samuel chapter 6. I like so much more of 2 Samuel. I didn't take any references for this. I'm pretty much going to read it through. This is more or less history of the reign of King David so far. So, I have already prayed and asked God to help me to read to you. And I suggest that anytime that you place yourself in God's Word that you ask Him to help you to understand, and He will, according to His Word. He promises to do these things. So that being said, I'm just going to kind of jump into this one. It's not super long, but it's a good one. It's talking about the Ark of the Covenant, moving of the Ark of the Covenant. So now David again gathered all the chosen men of Israel, 30,000. That's not all Israel. That's the special ones, the chosen, the best. And David arose, and perhaps maybe the chosen could be the religious, not the religious, but the chosen by God. Okay, could be that too. And David arose and went with all the people who were with him to Baal Judah to bring up from there the ark of God, which is called by the name, capital name, God's name, the very name of the Lord of hosts, who is enthroned above the cherubim. And God is enthroned above the cherubim, and on the Ark of the Covenant there's a mercy seat, the throne of God, and there's two cherubim with their wings pointing each other in God's throne. And that's the only throne that God has in the old temple. There's no throne of God. Okay, so just a quick pause here. But as we talk about, someday that the man of desolation is going to seat himself on the throne of God in the temple, okay? He can't seat himself on the mercy seat above the cherubim. See where I'm at? For one, the Ark of the Covenant's gone. It's never going to come back. God says so. It's in His Word. I've already read it. For another, okay, there is no throne in God's temple where God sits. Okay, so all these things being said, I personally feel that our heart is God's temple, and if Satan sits on the throne of your heart, then he's just sitting on the throne of God's temple. Could be that simple. Anyway, so I'm just going to go on here. I just want to put that in there because it talks about the throne of God above the cherubim here. I'm talking about the Ark of the Covenant as we go along. So verse 3, they placed the Ark of God on a new cart, that they might bring it from the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill, and Uzzah and Ahio, A-H-I-O, Ahio instead of Ohio. The sons of Abinadab were leading the new cart, so they brought it with the ark of God from the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill, and Ahio was walking ahead of the ark. Meanwhile, David and all the house of Israel were celebrating before the Lord with all kinds of instruments made of fir wood, and with lyres, harps, tambourines, castanets, and cymbals. Take a quick pause right here. Some denominations believe that that instruments are not to be used to worship the Lord. But I surmise if David did it, it was okay. Okay, or it is okay. But when they came to the threshing floor of Nacon, Uzzah reached out toward the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen nearly upset it. So the cart went boom, and the ark started to fall, and he touched it to stop it from falling to the ground. Okay. And the anger of the Lord burned against Uzzah, and God struck him down there for his irreverence, and he died there by the ark of God. So God struck him dead because he was irreverent and touched it. God could have saved it himself, I guess, is what God was saying, but you're not supposed to touch the ark. They had poles, they slid through it, and only, yes. David became angry because of the Lord's outburst against Uzzah, and that place was called Perez Uzzah to this day. So David was afraid of the Lord that day, and he said, how can the ark of the Lord come to me? Because he just saw somebody die. He's like, I don't want this thing in my house. Okay? And David was unwilling to move the ark of the Lord into the city of David with him. But David took it aside to the house of Obed-Edom, the Gittite. Thus the ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom, the Gittite, 3 months, and the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. So while the ark was there, God showered blessings upon this guy's house. Now it was told King David, saying, the Lord has blessed the house of Obed-Edom and all that belongs to him on account of the ark of God. So he's like, they came to him and said, David, this guy's making out because the ark's at his house. David went and brought the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom into the city of David with gladness, because it brought prosperity. But at first he was very scared of it because he had seen it kill this other young man. And so it was that when the bearers of the ark of the Lord had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed an ox and a fatling. So, yeah. And David was dancing before the Lord with all his might, and David was wearing a linen ephod. So he didn't have on all his clothes, he just had on his basically underclothes, I believe, which it was still covering him. And he was dancing before the Lord, which the Lord knows what we look like naked, okay? So, yeah. So David and all the house of Israel were bringing up the ark of the Lord with shouting and with the sound of a trumpet. That's the same way that Jesus is coming in, with a shout and a trumpet. And they were bringing the ark of God in with a shout and a trumpet. I'm just kind of saying there's, a correlation there. And then it happened as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David that Michal, the daughter of Saul, looked out the window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart. I think it had very little to do with anything other than her father and King David. Okay? So they brought in the ark of the Lord and set it in its place inside the tent which David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. When David had finished offering the burnt offering and the peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts. Further, he distributed to all the people, to all the multitude of Israel, both to men and women, a cake of bread, and one of dates, and one of raisins to each. Then all the people departed, each to his house. So David gave everybody something. You see what I mean? He cast his bread upon the water. Many of these people were poor. Not everybody in the desert in this area was well off, But when David returned to bless his household, Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, how the king of Israel distinguished himself today. So she was obviously upset. He uncovered himself today in the eyes of his servants, maids, as one of the foolish ones shamelessly uncovers himself. So she was making fun of him because he was dancing in front of folks in his linens. Okay? So David said to Michal, it was before the Lord who chose me above your father and above all his house, to appoint me ruler over the people of the Lord, over Israel. Therefore, I will celebrate before the Lord. And that's what he said. He said, I wasn't dancing for you. I was dancing for God. You know what I mean? And God gave me all these things, and so I'm going to dance before the Lord. I will be more lightly esteemed than this, and will be humble in my own eyes. But with the maids of whom you have spoken, with them I will be distinguished. Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child to the day of her death. And that means that Saul's line died here, I think, because his sons had been killed and his daughter never had a child. So Saul's line completely died off, which I believe was according to prophecy as well. So that's all I really have for this one. Like I said, this Second Kings is more or less just so far histories of David, and I'm not taking a lot of references out of it. So that's all I have for today for that one, and thank you very much. And God bless.